Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wednesday Wisdom. My name is JB Hilliard, and these are designed to be short video snippets of information to answer questions you may have about probate or estate planning or other legal concerns that may be impacting your household. And today I wanted to talk briefly about title ownership. The last few Wednesday Wisdom videos, I talked about title ownership with regard to transferring your property into a trust or into a business entity name. But this week, due to some recent interactions with clients and potential clients' questions, I thought it'd be necessary to kind of revisit some of the basics regarding title ownership, particularly with multiple owners. Now, typically, when I have a husband and wife come to me wanting to transfer their property to a trust, or we talk about the property as part of their estate planning process, or if I have one spouse that wants to add the other spouse to the property, if they're not already on there as joint tenants. One of my initial questions is typically, with a married couple, is the house jointly owned between the two of you? And they'll always say, yes. And what I'm trying to get at is it jointly owned with rights of survivorship so that essentially the property only has to go through the probate process once? And typically the answer is yes. But by and large, I find that that is actually not the case, that they think because somewhere in the paperwork they put that they're a husband and wife married couple, that automatically equates to this ownership in the property being as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. And that is not the case, at least not here in Georgia. That is not the default. You can put married couple in every other line in the deed or in your closing documents at your residential closing, but that doesn't make it so. And so here in Georgia, there has to be that specific language in the deed itself, in the warranty deed or the quitclaim deed, whatever type of transfer deed you're using. There must be specific language in there. And what I continue to find is people presume that it's done, it is, and it's not because the language is missing. Georgia's default, even with married couples, is joint tenancy as tenants in common. And so if you don't use those terms with rights of survivorship, and in a recent deed I looked up, it had it all. Jane and John Doe as joint tenants with rights of survivorship and not as tenants in common. That was all in there. And so you want to make sure what you're presuming is what the actuality of the situation is. Now, in some states, in some jurisdictions, there is a default for married couples called tenants in entirety, but Georgia doesn't recognize that. So again, you want to make sure wherever you're living that you do a double check on your deed. If you own property, if you own a home or a condo or land, and you know is owned with someone else, either your spouse or someone else, some other family member, maybe a child or a parent, depending on where you are in the spectrum. But you want to just do a double check on your deed, especially if you bought this property years and years ago. You do your closing, you tuck that piece of paper away in a file cabinet somewhere in a lock box or under the bed or wherever, and you don't think about it anymore. But you really do, especially because I know you are updating your estate plans on a regular basis, or at least checking them on a regular basis, to also check all deeds of ownership to make sure they state what you need them to state, to match up to what you want or what you intend to happen after one of you should pass away. So with that said, that's all I have for this week. If you want to see a really great example or hear about a really great example of a tenants in common situation, go back to my YouTube library back in, I think it was like February, March timeframe of 2022. I actually ended up doing a 6-part series on What a Mess, because this particular situation, which was which came from or was inspired by a real situation, was truly a mess. So with that said, that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoy the videos if you go back to those, and we will see you next time.